running around on stage with the Tesla stock price where the stock price had gone in half, and he was overjoyed. What an evil thing to do! What a creep! What a jerk! Like who derives joy?
Have you ever wondered how one decision, one detail, could lead to the collapse of an entire company? Imagine investing in something revolutionary. You believe it's the future, but in reality, it turns into a nightmare. That's exactly what happened to Tesla and Cybertruck, which faced a reality that destroyed not only dreams, but also tens of billions of dollars.
Spray paint to vandalize and make a statement. People in Southern California are getting notes on their Teslas, calling them complicit Nazis for owning electric cars.
It all started with promises that seemed too good to be true. Elon Musk promised that Cybertruck would not just be a new car, it would be a vehicle that would change the entire automotive industry. It would be durable, revolutionary, with an incredible design that seemed to be created to withstand any challenge. But what really lies behind all the glitz and promises? How did one technological mistake, one design decision, almost destroy the reputation of a company that was once considered unbreakable?
That's from the European Automobile Manufacturers Association. People just choosing with their wallets to not buy Teslas because of that Musk-Trump association. And actually here in London, an activist group called Everyone Hates Elon actually have been hacking bus stop signs with posters. I actually passed one yesterday. First, I wasn't quite sure what was happening, but it said the words 0 to 1939 in 3 seconds. Illusion here, 0 to 60 in like 3 seconds or something. But this poster was alluding to the start of World War II, and the image was of Musk giving that hand salute that we saw at Trump's inauguration that many have attacked as a Nazi gesture. Musk, though, has neither admitted or denied what he was doing. But we're seeing the knock-on effect of that anti-Musk anger across Europe and in terms of sales.
You can't launch a project like this and not encounter problems. And Tesla encountered them right on the assembly line. Panels don't fit together, parts don't line up, and the accelerator pedal refuses to work as it should. The steel exoskeleton, which was supposed to be at the heart of the entire concept, proved to be an insurmountable obstacle for the factories trying to assemble it. The result? Massive failures, complaints, and thousands of customers who bought the Cybertruck in the first place hoping to be part of the future and are now becoming its victims.
We've accomplished more in 43 days than most administrations accomplished in 4 years or 8 years, and we are just getting started.
He praised all the domestic actions he has taken so far on immigration.
And I deployed the U.S. military and border patrol to repel the invasion of our country.
And spending cuts.
We are draining the swamp. It's very simple.
But what was going on behind the scenes? How did the factory in Texas where these vehicles were built actually work? The problems on the assembly line were not limited to the exoskeleton and assembly errors. Problems began to appear on all fronts. The electronic systems, which were supposed to be not just innovative but also convenient for the driver, became a source of serious inconvenience. The lack of buttons and push-button switches turned out to be not only innovative, but also unsafe for drivers who had to search for the right settings on touchscreens at the most inopportune moments.
Does that help Tesla? I mean, you had Tim Waltz, who's a huge jerk,
When the cars began to roll off the assembly line, not only did they fail to meet the advertised quality standards, but they also began to break down before they even reached their owners. Customers began posting photos of their cars with huge gaps in the panels, and it was no longer a laughing matter. The steel bodies, which were supposed to be strong and durable, could not withstand even standard operating conditions. And when the first serious breakdowns began, including problems with the brakes and acceleration system, Tesla faced something that even its fiercest critics had never encountered before.
outperforming as well in some cases, doing better than Tesla. And you just have to think, how much more is this a sustained issue for Tesla going forward, given the fact that you have Elon Musk, who's been very forthright in his opinions, particularly weighing in on politics, particularly in Europe. We've just had the European elections, which Musk has been very focused on. But across the piece, when you look at the performance for Tesla in Europe, it's not just in small countries. There are a lot of countries where Tesla has been performing badly, including in Germany, in the UK, where it has been lagging, and Spain as well.
But here's the question. How could this happen to a company that was once a pioneer in the world of technology? Where was the mistake that led to this? Why did even Tesla's most loyal fans begin to doubt a brand that was once considered an unstoppable force in the market? Let's take a look at how one miscalculation, one detail that was overlooked at the start, could destroy the image that Tesla had spent years building. In this video, we'll tell you how the Cybertruck went through this disaster, who is really to blame, and why the path to new technologies requires not only innovation, but something more important, responsibility. Stay with us and find out what went wrong.
Well, you will hear people over in Europe say the new Model Y, the Juniper, could be a difference maker, but that's been in that market now for more than a month. And you would think that you would see a greater snapback if it's going to be a difference maker. Look, we could be wrong. It could be a difference maker once you get the sales for April, May, and June. But when you have a country like Norway, I think the sales were down something like 11% there. I mean, that's a very savvy EV consumer in Norway. And that's long been a strength for Tesla. Very small market, not huge volume, but I think almost all of the vehicles they sell there are electric. And they embraced Tesla long before others. And, you know, the reports there are not encouraging.
Cybertruck is not just a car, but an ambitious project that was supposed to become a symbol of the future, a revolution in the automotive industry. Tesla, with its colorful and extraordinary leader Elon Musk, presented a new vision of the world of transportation. A stainless steel exoskeleton, distinctive design, minimalist interior, and promises of military-grade safety, it all sounded like something that could rewrite the rules of the game. But in the first few months after the launch, it became clear that the dream of a unique car had turned into a nightmare, not only for the developers, but also for the buyers. Behind the shiny words and confident speeches lay problems that Tesla may never fully resolve.
Well, this feels more like a Tesla-only story when you look at just this fall in EV sales for them that they're suffering across Europe, down 45% in January. The wider EV market in Europe up 37%, so rivals are catching up and performing.
When the Cybertruck design was unveiled to the world, the public received it with enthusiasm. Expectations for this model were huge, not only because of its innovative appearance, but also because of its claimed specifications. But the first thing that happened after mass production began was a discrepancy between what was promised and what appeared on the market. Production problems began to mount almost immediately. One of the first blows to the Cybertruck's image was an incident in which one of the first batches of cars left the factory with serious assembly defects. The panels did not match, the doors did not close properly, and some models had problems with internal systems. For example, in one case, when owners discovered that after 300 kilometers of driving, the seats began to come apart, Tesla claimed that it was a programming error in the seats, not a design flaw. Over time, it turned out that the assembly line had simply not taken into account the weight of the metal used for the body, which meant that all the components, including the doors and seats, were the wrong size.
I mean, the things that he's doing is not trying to make America better. He's ruining our infrastructure, every department in our government. He's ruining, and he's right now destroying our economy. He's taken away all of our allies. We're a pariah in the world.
The design problems proved to be just as serious. As is well known, the exoskeleton was made of stainless steel, which was supposed to guarantee incredible strength and durability. But reality showed that this material could not be processed using the standard equipment used in Tesla's factories. It soon became clear that the production lines that were supposed to manufacture these innovative components were simply unable to handle this type of steel. This led to production delays and problems with the installation of parts. Rumor has it that even the most highly qualified engineers working on these assembly lines were unable to adapt their knowledge to such an unusual process, which ultimately led to a complete breakdown in the schedule.
After Trump imposed those sweeping 25% tariffs on aluminum and steel imports, the European Union retaliating with tariffs on up to $28 billion of U.S. goods. Trump making it clear this isn't over, vowing to respond in kind with sweeping retaliatory tariffs early next month.
They're doing what they should be doing, perhaps, for the European Union, but it does create ill will. And as you know, we're going to be doing reciprocal tariffs. So whatever they charge us, we're charging them.
Canada also striking back with new tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods, mostly steel and aluminum, but also computers and sporting goods.
The next blow to Cybertruck's image came when the first owners began to receive their vehicles. In addition to external defects, Cybertruck vehicles began to demonstrate unexpected functionality issues. In particular, owners began to complain about the touchscreens. The electronic system, which was supposed to be the pinnacle of technological achievement, actually left much to be desired. The screen with an interface replacing all physical buttons turned out to be not only inconvenient, but also unsafe. Drivers reported that, when driving at high speeds, they could not control elements such as mirrors and air conditioning without taking their eyes off the road. In a random test organized by independent automotive experts, it was found that Cybertruck drivers spent twice as much time manipulating the touchscreen as drivers of cars with traditional buttons and knobs. But despite user feedback, Tesla continued to claim that this was an innovation in driving, which only added fuel to the fire of criticism.
Hey Diane, this investigation really just beginning, and one of the key elements will of course be the surveillance video. And investigators potentially have a lot of it to work with as they try to figure out what caused this fire. We know that surveillance footage has been turned over, including video from each of the cars, which could prove vital to understanding what happened here, because each vehicle has its own camera system that works even when the car is off. And 16 cars burned in this fire. And right now, investigators don't know what caused it.
The problems with the Cybertruck's production process and design proved disastrous. But that was only the beginning. When the cars began to go on sale in large numbers, even more serious problems emerged. For example, starting with the first batches of cars, owners began reporting mechanical failures that required immediate intervention. One of the most high-profile cases was an incident involving one of the first cars, when a brake system malfunction was detected during sudden braking. As a result, the car simply did not stop at a speed of 100 km/h, which almost led to a serious accident. The cause was a malfunction in the brake mechanism, which, as it turned out, was due to the fact that some of the brake system components had simply not been properly tested before launch. This led to a mass failure in one of the car's key components, which was the reason for one of Tesla's first large-scale recalls.
A 371. Most were saying 350 to 360. Now they're coming in at 336,068. Production of 362,615. So for some point of reference here, you're going back to Q2, maybe Q1 of 2022 in terms of the last time that they had production this or deliveries this low for one quarter. So again, Tesla deliveries worse than expected at just over 336,000 deliveries in the first quarter. Guys, I'll send it back to you.
That's horrible. Can I just ask Phil, how about the Cybertruck? How's that doing? You got a little inventory there in the Cybertruck?
The technology was based on promises that the Cybertruck would be revolutionary, but in reality, it turned out to be something completely different. By the time the first customers began to take their cars in for service, Tesla was already forced to admit that the design it had put all its efforts into had failed to withstand real-world testing. Not only were the panels not perfectly flat, but they also began to come apart at the seams after just a few weeks of use. Most importantly, when customers began to seek repairs, they found that service centers simply did not have the skills or tools to repair these vehicles. While owners were trying to find solutions to these problems, Tesla found itself in the spotlight. Bad reviews, delivery delays and breakdowns that no one could predict began to spread like wildfire. It became clear that the company that once claimed to be revolutionizing the automotive industry was facing insurmountable difficulties. But that wasn't the only problem. It turned out that everything related to the production and sales of the Cybertruck simply couldn't keep up with the pace set by Musk. Tesla was faced with something no one could have expected. One unfortunate manufacturing error led to the company being at the center of criticism, and now its entire image depended on whether it could fix all its mistakes. Meanwhile, competitors such as Ford and Rivian were already gaining momentum, and Tesla risked losing its market share.
Tesla shares have slumped by more than 9% amid a fall in sales in Europe. The electric vehicle maker posted lower sales across 5 European countries, including France and the UK. Joining us now to discuss this is CBS News foreign correspondent Remy Inocencio. Remy, why do we believe these sales are dropping? What's driving that?
Sure. Well, Errol, basically what Elon Musk has been talking about over the past, say, few months, ever since Donald Trump's election back to the White House, that has been fueling this anger, this frustration. Some even say disgust towards Musk, and they're taking it out on Tesla. Tesla now feeling the pain. But because of what's happening here in Europe, Tesla sales fell by nearly half across the continent just last month, 45%.
As soon as the automotive world began to realize the scale of the Cybertruck problem, details emerged that no one could ignore. Finding itself at the center of criticism, Tesla continued to cling to its reputation. But the gap between its ambitious concept and reality began increasingly apparent. Loyal fans began to lose faith, and new buyers who had already heard about the numerous delays and quality issues began to cancel their orders. All this was compounded by unexpected changes in pricing policy, which became not only shocking, but also frankly unacceptable to most people. And although the company continued to claim that the Cybertruck was a step into the future, behind this bold statement lay a real threat to Tesla's very existence.
Over the last couple of months. But the other thing that this could potentially be is an attempt at readjustment or correction by the Trump administration, in that one of Trump's closest kind of allies and supporters, and someone who's clearly very influential in the administration, is coming out to kind of push back against the recently implemented policies. So I'm thinking, or maybe hopeful is the right word, that this might be a signal that the administration is considering walking back some of those policies.
First of all, after mass deliveries began, the price of the Cybertruck skyrocketed. The same car that cost around $40,000, 0 cents at the presentation stage, was selling for more than $100,000, 0 cents in most cases, in 2024, including taxes and additional options. For many who ordered their model in the early stages, this came as a real shock. Despite the promise of incredible innovations, all they got in return for their money was not a finished product, but an experiment they were drawn into without warning. Musk and Tesla may have wanted to create something groundbreaking, but due to all the delays and shortcomings, the final product was far from what was promised.
Worse than expected, 336 and 68 vehicles, 336,068 vehicles delivered in the first quarter for Tesla. For a point of reference, the street was expecting, the street account was expecting, based on analyst expectations.
But pricing issues were just the tip of the iceberg. By the time customer reviews began to pile up, it became clear that Tesla had not only changed the price, but also started pushing back delivery dates, citing the need for additional checks and quality upgrades. However, as it soon became known, cars that had been partially assembled were sitting idle at factories in Texas, waiting for finishing parts. The reason? Problems with components, which, as it turned out, had been manufactured with deviations from the norm. For example, body panels that were supposed to be perfectly finished were the wrong size, meaning they simply could not be installed on assembled cars without risking damage to other structural elements. This was not just a technical error. It was the result of the engineering team responsible for completing the project simply not keeping up with production schedules. failing to fully understand that their product required much more thorough and thoughtful development.
KTLA Samantha Cortese joins us live with more on the wave of vandalism in protest of Elon Musk and his role in Washington. Sam?
Hi, Sharon, Micah. The ATF and FBI are collaborating with federal, state, and local law enforcement to investigate acts of domestic terrorism surrounding Teslas.
And then a new wave of criticism arose when the Cybertruck finally began to reach customers. Those who had been eagerly awaiting their model discovered that it not only failed to live up to the promises made in terms of build quality, but also in terms of functionality. Due to the minimalist design, users found themselves in a situation where driving the vehicles was inconvenient and unsafe. Once behind the wheel, owners noticed that the touchscreens, which were supposed to replace the standard buttons and controls, did not always respond properly. Literally within the first few kilometers of driving, they found that they could not easily adjust the mirrors without taking their eyes off the road. By the time complaints began to reach the service department, it became clear that none of Tesla's service centers were prepared for such complex repairs, as they did not have the necessary equipment to service these models. In some cases, owners had to wait several weeks before their cars were diagnosed. Meanwhile, voices of discontent began to be heard within the company itself. Some engineers expressed doubts that the Cybertruck project could be successful in such a short time frame. Even those who believed in the idea were increasingly skeptical that Tesla would be able to live up to expectations. It is said that at internal meetings, Musk, who has always been known for his determination and ambitious plans, himself began to express concerns that the company was facing a problem that it would not be able to solve without significant investment in the redesign of the entire production line.
But they are not ruling out the possibility that this was arson. At the same time, as you just mentioned, there are groups that have been organizing ongoing and peaceful protests at Tesla dealerships around the world. These demonstrations targeting Elon Musk and his affiliation with the Trump administration. Italy's prime minister is said to be close friends with Musk, and there were reports that Teslas have been vandalized in her hometown in Italy. Diane.
But here's the interesting part. While major problems with the Cybertruck nearly consumed Tesla, its internal crisis continued to gather momentum. Musk, who had previously been known for his unwavering optimism and willingness to go all the way, found himself in a situation where words were no longer enough. He disappeared from the public arena, refusing to comment amid growing and widespread rumors about the consequences of the defects. At press conferences and events held to relaunch the project, Musk began to avoid direct questions about the problems associated with the Cybertruck. The same man who had previously been a symbol of forward-thinking and technological progress now remained silent and somewhat detached from what was happening. Tesla's service centers were overwhelmed. Cars that were supposed to be a symbol of progress now served as a reminder that even the boldest ideas can lead to disaster.
Canada, the largest supplier of steel to the U.S., slapping new tariffs on $20 billion worth of U.S. goods that are sold in Canada. And the 27 countries of the European Union imposing retaliatory tariffs on up to $28 billion worth of U.S. goods sold in Europe, including Harley-Davidson motorcycles and Kentucky bourbon. President Trump with the Irish Prime Minister visiting the White House today. The president suggesting his tariffs won't stop here, saying, of course, I'm going to respond. And tonight, right here, the new poll showing 56% of Americans disapprove of President Trump's handling of the economy. The number's even worse now on the president's tariffs.
And here, amid all this chaos, Tesla's last chance appeared. Despite his silence, Musk realized that all that remained of his company were its loyal fans who still believed in the Cybertruck idea. These were the very people who had remained loyal to Tesla despite all the problems. On some forums, they even began to share their improvements to the car, fixing it themselves. But the question remained, could Tesla regain trust and avoid total disaster? The company that once symbolized the future now risked becoming an example of how excessive ambition and a lack of attention to detail can lead to ruin.